Fender just won a landmark case in Europe. Or did they? Howdy everybody, welcome back to Sunday Coffee, Guitars and Tones. This is the show where we just hang out, have a coffee and talk about all guitar stuff. And today we are going to be talking about Fender. But first, I have an iced coffee with me today because it is blazing hot out there, and a hot coffee, no, that's just not going to work today. So cheers guys. Oh, that's lovely. That's nice and refreshing, exactly what I needed. So I hope you've all had a fantastic week. This week's been really great for me. It's just been such a productive week and there's lots coming on the channel, so stay tuned for everything. But you know, on Friday I took the day off because my really good friend Craig Rundles was in London, and I managed to go up and spend some time with him. He was really busy. He had meetings and stuff, and you know, managed to get a couple of hours out of his schedule, so we got to hang out and have a drink and stuff. He's a really good friend of mine and he's a phenomenal guitar player, so shout out to Craig, and you know, we'll be doing it again really soon, dude. Anyways, so in the news over the last couple of weeks has been, yeah, we won't mention the name of the company, shall we? Yeah, no, let's not give them any more publicity because hey, we don't want to, right? That made me dizzy looking into the kind of viewfinder of the camera, or the little screen on the camera, which is looking back at me saying, hey, stop doing that, dude. So, Fender obviously took a Chinese company to court. You guys know this already because you're clicking on this because you've seen all of the commentary by everybody else on it, and now you're watching my commentary as well, just to add to the conversation, right? And they got this landmark ruling that they had copyright status in their guitar body shape because it's shaped like a woman and a sexy woman or something like, oh, whatever it is. But did they actually get the win? Now, I'm going to approach this from a slightly different angle because some of you know this already, and a lot of you who are actually new subscribers to my channel, and thank you so much for subscribing. I so appreciate every single one of you, every single day I'm on YouTube and doing my thing. You guys probably don't know this about me. I'm an ex-lawyer. Yeah! I used to be an legal eagle. Yeah. I didn't have the beard at the time, actually. I did have the long hair, though. Anyways, that's a story for a different day. Not just that, I'm an ex-copyright lawyer as well. I did that for many years, and I did study copyright law very intensely because, hey, it was a passion of mine. I was into music and I wanted to learn about it and stuff. And I actually worked in the industry for some time as well. So I'm going to approach it from that perspective as well as being a guitar player. Now, everything I say is just my opinions. I'm not giving any legal advice. I want to make that clear right now. It's just my thoughts on the whole subject. So don't take this as legal advice and act on it or anything like that. You got to make your own mind up about what happened here. So what Fender did was they took a Chinese manufacturing company which is based out near Jinhao, China, to court in Germany, claiming breach of copyright because they make Strat copies, and they make budget Strat copies which sell, I don't know, probably for about $100 or something, right? And they actually got the win on the ruling. So then the guitar press went out there and said, hey, this is a landmark ruling, it's going to change the world. And lots of commentators have been saying, what's going to happen now? Because it's going to completely change the industry because they have this copyright over the guitar body, and they obviously have copyright over the headstock shape they have for years. And man, it's just going to disseminate the whole industry because, hey, everybody builds Strats. Every manufacturer builds Strat style guitars and, you know, variations on the Strat theme. But the one thing that a lot of people are missing from this is that they actually got the judgment as a default judgment. Now, what this means is that the other side didn't turn up at court and fight the case. Yeah, that's what happened. Right? Now, this is a fine distinction. It's quite nuanced because if somebody had turned up at court and actually put legal arguments forward, the outcome might have been quite different, and probably would have, because in America, Fender have tried this previously and they lost. Yeah, let that sink in for a second, right? So when somebody actually contested their claim in the US, when Fender brought claim against another company in the US some years ago, but they brought their lawyers down, they brought their legal arguments, and basically put forward that, hey, you know, this is actually a design which has been out there and done so many times, etc., etc. Fender did not win. But they got the ruling when somebody didn't turn up at court. That's very, very different. Okay? They might have got the win on the face of it, but right now it's untested. So Fender are throwing their weight about at the moment, and you know, there's a lot of talk about cease and desist notices which are going to be going out to people and small manufacturers and stuff, and they still might. They probably will, because this is going to give, you know, Fender's legal team quite a boost, because they're going to say, hey, we've got this ruling. But from my point of view as an ex-lawyer, if I was looking at this like 20 years ago when I used to practice, I'd be thinking, yeah, you got the ruling, but it's a default ruling, so technically it hasn't been challenged by somebody. So in my mind, the first thing that's going to come up is, all right, what's actually going to happen when somebody turns up with their legal team and challenges this? Are you going to get the win at that point in time? And I think that's going to be the really important part of this whole story and this scenario. Are Fender going to be actually able to hold this up against other manufacturers? Fine, the Chinese company didn't turn up, they didn't send a representative to court. You know what? Just my personal thoughts. It might have been they just thought, you know what? We're not going to spend money on this. Look, after all, Fender is a corporation. It's a massive, massive company. They have resources just, you know, coming out of the wazoo. Right? They've got a big legal team. They've got lots of money. They can do this. Chinese company based out in Jinhao, China. They've got to basically hire a lawyer in Germany to go and fight a case. Maybe they did fight it. I don't know the particulars of the case, so you know, I'm not going to say that they did or did not. I have no idea at all. But you know, they might have fought it to a stage and then thought, you know what, we're not spending any more money on this, and they just let it go. And obviously Fender turned up at court, and the judge probably had no option but to give a default ruling because the other side just didn't turn up. It could be possible that the hearing had been delayed a couple of times, the company hadn't turned up, and then eventually the judge gave the ruling. That would be my guess, because, you know, just on a first attendance basis, you know, you turn up at court, the other side doesn't turn up, the judge is going to say, all right, let's give them one more chance. And, you know, the side that turned up is going to probably go, no, we need the win today. And the judge would probably be like, you know what, if I do this today and the other side kind of complain about it and say, hey, you should have given a continuance, then, you know, it's not going to go too well. So it's possible that happened. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know the particulars of the case. I have not been following this so closely. But you know, the one thing that this has done, right, is it seems to have damaged Fender's reputation. Now that's something that might be more costly to them than actually taking this to court. Because the videos I've seen out there and the information I've seen out there is, hey, this design's been out there for so long now. And lots of manufacturers have basically been building Strat style guitars and evolutions of Strat style guitars, not just Strats. So now you've got this ruling and you're basically going to be sending out these cease and desist letters to all of these companies. And that's not sitting well with a lot of people. It's making people nervous. Yeah. Won't lie to you. You know, I have a lot of Strat headstocks in the studio. And, you know, some of them might be partscasters. But, you know, I'm not worried, to be honest, because most of the guitars, even if they're partscasters, the necks have actually been licensed by Fender. Like on my Frankie guitar, it's a custom Frankie guitar. It has the Fender style headstock on it, but it's an all parts neck, which is actually officially licensed by Fender, which is why it costs more money than, let's say, a neck you can pick up in China or something like that, which isn't licensed, because obviously all parts have to pay Fender a fee in order to create the headstock, like a Fender headstock. It's a licensing deal. So I'm not worried about it. And, you know, the reality is, with all legal cases, the first question is, you know, are we going to get any money back from this? They might be doing it on principle, but the likelihood of them going after just, you know, somebody with a collection of guitars or something is pretty small, because it comes down to manufacturing and selling instruments a lot of the time as well. If somebody's basically just blatantly ripping something off, which, let's face it, China's been known to do a little bit, right? Then they might go after those people in principle as well. But from the perspective of somebody who plays guitar, who comes onto YouTube, makes content, is a professional musician, etc., the chances of me getting a cease and desist letter is very, very slim. I think anyways. Maybe one will turn up tomorrow. I'll be like, oh shit. I got that one wrong. Hopefully not. Fingers and toes crossed, right? But no, you know, you get my point, right? Now, I've been building partscasters for years, and I've just done one. And you know what? If somebody was to actually send me a letter and say, hey, you need to destroy this guitar, I'd be like, no. That's not going to happen, man. I've just built this guitar, damn it. You know, so, you know, instruments are personal to us. We're passionate about what we create, and especially if we put together a guitar. And, you know, for me, I wouldn't feel that it was fair if a company just came after me because I built a Partscaster or something like that. Probably wouldn't happen, because, you know, it's not worth their while to do that unless somebody is selling an instrument, you know, if they're profiteering from it. That's the time when companies always go after somebody, where there's money involved. Let's be really straight about this. I know this from my previous life as a lawyer. You know, you only chase after where the money's at. Because, hey, you know, otherwise you end up spending, let's say, a few $100,000 fighting a case where you gain nothing back. Just an apology. Yeah, great. Thumbs up for getting an apology from somebody. Where's your $200,000-$300,000 or $400,000, $500,000, $1 million on a case? I don't know how much it costs to fight a case these days, right? Let's say they spend $1 million just to get, you know, somebody like Jay Palmer to say, I'm so sorry, I won't build any more Partscasters. You know, at the end of the day, they would have spent all of that money and got nothing back from it. So what would the point be to do that? And, you know, going back to my previous experience, and this is just my previous experience when I've advised clients in the past, when I was a lawyer, and this isn't legal advice, by the way, when I've worked for corporations before and they've said, hey, should we go after these people? You know, and you look at the numbers and you're like, you know what, it's just not going to be worth your while. Sometimes a commercial decision has to be made about that. That's just the reality of, you know, legal proceedings. A lot of this has to do with, going up against somebody who's actually selling a product rather than just somebody who's using a product. Because the end user, you know, they are just an end user. They've bought it from somebody. They haven't manufactured the instrument. Even if it's a Partscaster, you buy the parts from somebody. Somebody has made them, let's say, to the spec of a Fender Stratocaster guitar. But anyways, slightly different conversation there. So what's going to happen with Fender? I don't know. The comments that I've seen to the videos have been like, I'm selling my Fender collection. There have been comments by people who own a large collection of Fenders and they don't want anything to do with the company. I think that's actually that's more telling about what's happening as a result of this. Yeah, they've managed to get this landmark ruling, but what's it going to do for them as a company? Are people still going to invest in Fender instruments? It goes wider than just Fender guitars. Obviously, they have like Charvel and Jackson and Gretsch's under their banner as well. PreSonus was acquired by Fender not too long ago, and they changed the software to Fender software or whatever it's called now. And EVH guitars, I have several of them in the studio. You know, are people still going to invest in it? That's going to be a personal choice. Am I still going to invest in those guitars? To be honest, I don't actually have a lot of Fender gear. I never have. I've gravitated towards other companies. Just naturally have. But I do like my EVH gear. I've got everything I need for now. There is one that I would like to add, which is the relic kind of yellow and black striped Franken-Strat, which they've just done. That looks pretty cool, man. I've kind of built one myself from another guitar, so I don't quite need it right now, but anyways, gas and all of that. So, you know, I don't perceive myself going out and buying like 6 Fender amps and 7 Fender guitars and, you know, Stratocasters and Telecasters and whatever else in the near future or anything like that. But from the perspective of the story which this has created, it's been really, really interesting. I find it fascinating that they did this and they got this ruling. But I also find it fascinating that it's been reported in the way that it has been reported. And I think it's important to understand that, like I said earlier, this hasn't been properly tested. What's going to happen when they go up against, I don't know, a manufacturer who has resources, someone like Harley Benton? I'm just going to pick them out of the air. I don't know if, you know, they're going to get a cease and desist letter or anything like that. But if they do, what's going to happen if they think, well, actually, we're going to fight this because firstly, we've got the resources to do it. We've got the lawyers to do it. And we've got the backing of Tom and et cetera, you know, stacks up. So then it becomes an equal battle between them. That'll be the really interesting thing, because if Fender get the win after that, then it's a landmark ruling. Then it's been properly tested. But until then, personally, I don't think it's been properly tested. I would love to see what actually resulted in that. At the moment, it kind of feels like, you know, pro-level guitar player turns up, right? And you know, they're teaching a kid to play, and this kid's been playing for like 3 months, and they, you know, they say, hey, let's have a jam. And they have a jam. And obviously pro-level player just kind of just blazes through everything. Then at the end of it, they're like, ha ha, I won. Yeah, technically you did, but hey, you're up against somebody who's been playing for 3 months, dude. Come on now. What the hell? So you kind of get my point with that, right? It's the David versus Goliath thing at the moment. But what happens when it's Goliath versus Goliath? Yeah, watch this space for that. If it ever happens, I don't know if it will. And even though they've got the ruling, one thing to keep in mind is that's just the first part of the battle when you go into these legal proceedings. The enforcement of that ruling afterwards, that's a whole different ball game. Now, this gets complicated now. And again, it's quite nuanced because we're talking about an American company who have just won a legal battle against a Chinese company, but they've won it in Germany, which is the European Union. So where are they going to enforce it? Are they going to enforce it against the Chinese company in China, which, you know, that's cross-border stuff? That can get really, really complicated. Are they going to enforce it in Europe and go after European manufacturers on the basis of this ruling? Are they just going to see it as symbolic and a piece of paper which says, hey, you know, this gives us an open avenue to go and kind of pursue this against other people? We just don't know. So the enforcement of this is going to actually be, I think, quite tricky. So there's that to factor into this as well. Look, legal proceedings are never, ever simple. Even when they finish, it's not like everybody basically just goes back to their lives because there's this judgment and suddenly, yeah, it's all done. No, it carries on after that. So yeah, something to keep in mind. Maybe it will. But hey, that's my 2 cents on it. You know, I found it interesting from that legal perspective. It took me back in time, yeah, to when I used to wear a tie and a suit sometimes and go to court and do my thing with long hair. Yeah, I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have the beard at the time, but that would have been pretty cool, hey? Yeah, tie this back, turn up with this long beard, charm them all, right? Or leave my hair out. Yeah, go in rock and roll style. That would have been pretty cool, huh? I would love to know your take on this because there are lots of opinions out there, and I'd love to know from you guys whether you think Fender are protecting their legacy or they're overreaching, and what's going to happen when this is properly stress tested and somebody really does go up against them. Leave a comment and let me know. Let's get a discussion going on about this. What do I feel about it personally? Like I said, it's just interesting from that kind of, you know, academic point of view for me, because I don't have a lot of Fender guitars. Am I afraid that Fender will basically kind of contact me and say, "Hi Jay, you need to burn all your guitars now," and I'll be like, "Ah!" No, I'm not too worried about that, because hey, most of my guitars don't even have Strat style bodies. They're kind of, you know, dinky stroke super Strat style bodies. Yeah, but some do, like my Franken Strat. Can you imagine if that had happened? All right, here's a theoretical scenario. Somebody getting a letter which says, "Dear Mr. Edward, we noticed that your lovely red, white and black guitar is kind of similarly shaped to our Fender Stratocaster guitar, but it doesn't have a Fender logo on it. It's not a Fender. So you have to destroy it imminently. Put it on the fire right now. Lots of love, the people at Fender." Now, obviously that did not happen, and thankfully that guitar is in the collective consciousness, and it has been since 78? Yeah, when it was first out there. And variations on that have actually created innovation. They've created forward movement. They've created new designs. They've inspired people to create their own styles of Strat style guitars. Yeah. So it's actually created something which has expanded the guitar universe. Yeah, they gave the idea out there, and there is an argument for people having a right to protect their designs. I get that. As an ex-copyright lawyer, I completely get that. I practiced that for a long time. I totally get that. But in this situation, you know, like I said, it's just not been tested yet. It's an unknown. I still think it's an unknown at this point in time. And I'd be really interested to see what happens. Hopefully it will not stop the evolution of guitar. That'd be a real shame, because to be honest, you know, this isn't the most popular thing in current culture now anyways. When I was learning to play, when I first picked up guitar, it was. But now it's a little bit different, you know. Younger people have a lot of different things that they're interested in, and musical instruments, you know, not at the top of the priority list. But we still love playing, right? I would love to know your thoughts on this, so leave a comment and let me know. But in the meantime, have a lovely, lovely Sunday, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Yeah, me ranting about legal stuff, kind of, sort of. Yeah, going back to my old self. Not really. I never want to go back to my old self. No, that was glass half empty, Jay. Yeah, now it's glass half full, Jay. Yeah. See what I did there? Yeah, it's an evolution of Jay. just like the Stratocaster. Huh? Huh? Yeah? Yeah? All right, guys and girls, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go and enjoy this wonderful sunshine. And I hope you are having a fantastic Sunday as well. And yeah, get out there and have some fun. And go and play some guitar. That's what this is all about anyways. All right, have a great day. I'll see you soon with another one. Bye for now.